Washington, Michigan, national championship rematch. Time for some keys at the game.
You are Locked On Huskies, your daily podcast on the Washington Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into another edition of the Locked On Huskies podcast. I'm Roman Tomashoff. That's Lars Hanson. He's site editor with Athlon Sports Inside the Huskies. I'm the site editor with Huskies Wire. Thank you for making this your first watch or first listen of the day, as we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Lars, the Everydayers, they know the drill. It's Friday. That means it's time for our keys to the game. We're going to get to our bold predictions and your always accurate score prediction. We're going to get to the defensive keys. But as always, we start on the offensive side of the ball. We talked a little bit about it yesterday. What is your number one key to a Washington victory over Michigan on offense?
Interesting. I thought it was honestly your first term, but I'm just going to take it. So first one, we're going to rinse and repeat, throw back to the well. It's not what you would necessarily think. It's what we touched on earlier in the week. Protect Will Rogers. Now this is not the, hey, throw it for 500 yards, whatever. But Will is going to be the X factor in this game because we know Jonah's going to run the ball. We know they're going to want to run the ball with Jonah. We know all, the established run, that sort of thing. But Will becomes the X factor because if Will has time to throw, he's going to find somebody downfield, whether it's Jeremiah, Denzel, or Giles. Somebody in that room is going to get open, which to me, everything starts with protecting Will.
I'm certainly with you there where, we talked about this defensive tackle pairing of Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, probably the best in the country. And, you talk about not just protecting Will, but also making sure that Jonah's got some lanes to run through, because this Michigan run defense is really, really good. Third in the Big Ten, allowing, I believe it's 67 yards per game. So that's a really solid front. And I kind of want to take it a step further. In terms of protecting Will Rogers, it's finding different ways to utilize him, where we know he's not the most, mobile guy in the world, but we've seen Jedd try to get him out of the pocket, whether it be on a bootleg or different things like that. And I feel like we might see a little bit more of that in this game, because if you can do that effectively, it's going to open up some holes in this Michigan secondary, where the numbers say they're not great. I know they've got a lot of talent back there. And I know PFF put out a stat on Thursday saying that the school in the country with two corners that are graded 80 plus by their metrics. So it's a really solid back end, even though the numbers don't necessarily support it. And I think that Will might be able to take advantage of that. He's just so efficient. He's so good at protecting the football. The more I look at this, I think that finding ways to give Will time, and honestly, maybe even throwing the ball a fair amount, is going to be a really big part of this game.
And the one thing we've seen throughout the first 5 weeks of the season, somebody is always open when Will has enough time. The problem is, has Will always found him?
Right.
7 or 8 out of 10, which again is his completion percentage, 77, 74, somewhere in that 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5 ballpark. To me, that's all Will needs. It's just a little bit of time. And I think most of those downfield shots are going to come. I think that's where most of it comes into play, because protecting Will in terms of getting the ball out to, let's say, Giles, or a quick out to Jonah, something in the flat, you don't need a ton of time for that. That's where it comes into play. Hey, open the run, win in the trenches, I guess, to be the overarching message here, win in the trenches, because this is a game where Northwestern was a slight tune-up. Wazoo seemed to be more of a tune-up than anything else, which kind of is terrifying because of how that game ended. But then you have Rutgers, and now it's Michigan. And so you've gotten a warm-up. You've gotten used to facing good and better than average defensive tackles and defensive linemen. Now it's a matter of, can you do it when the stage matters? And this seems like a game where they could. Max McCree started all 69 snaps at left tackle against Rutgers. He seems to be more solidified there. Guard looked a little bit better at times. The snapping actually got better. So all of the minute problems, aside from Drew, getting, his feet wet on the right side, seem to get better. Now, can you put it together against the top 10 team? That's the question.
So I agree with you. And one thing I know you didn't omit on purpose is the play calling. The play calling is something that, where that's another thing in there where let's see it. Where, we've seen at points where it's, it doesn't seem like that's working. What's going on over there? And, we've seen it in the red zone. We've seen it at a whole bunch of different points over the course of the year. And that's something where in a game against a top 10 team that has a couple of weaknesses, and that there are things you can exploit there, that needs to be better this week. Where we've seen it at times, and we've seen at times the play calling is perfect. Like shout out to our buddy Jake Butt, Michigan alum, who's talking about the first Decker DeGraff touchdown against Weber State. Play calling there, the way that was set up, that was perfect. We've seen the highs of it, but we've also seen the lows, including a speed option on the goal line. Where is this game going to fall in terms of that? I think Jedd has the ability to rise to the occasion. I really do, but we need to see it.
And within that, because 100%, yeah, I didn't omit it for a reason. I've been burying Jedd since the post game against Rutgers, so it's not necessarily that I'm saying the play calling is fine. To me, I'm 100% with you. Let's see it. But to me, that also you know what I really want to see off of that, the usage of DeMond. You mentioned Will being able to scramble. Yes, I've been an advocate that Will's not Peyton Manning. He can scramble. But that worked really well against Rutgers. And Jamon almost got in on a 10-yard scramble near the goal line. So there's ways in which it's been able to work. Does lightning strike twice? Does Jedd not screw that up 2 weeks in a row? Because we haven't necessarily seen 2 weeks in a row Jedd making good decisions, in that regard, where you look at the Apple Cup, which, okay, one of those made sense. And then one of those when he's still trying to defend it, and it still doesn't make sense to me.
So one thing that I kind of want to talk about in terms of DeMond, because that's something we talked about earlier in the week where, I mentioned the boots and all that sort of stuff with Will a minute ago, where we talked about finding ways to utilize that with DeMond. One thing that I'm really curious to see is because I don't necessarily want to see as many snaps for DeMond in this game as we did against Rutgers, but I want to see what that looks like, because when DeMond is in the game, it's a very hot hand sort of approach. Like when he makes a wrong read, it seems like bang, he's coming back out. When some of these, I don't want to say momentum killers, but something where, the flow of the drive is altered slightly, that's when Jedd goes back to Will. So I'm really curious to see what that looks like in this game. Where is he going to have a longer leash, or is it going to stay consistent? Where I feel that there are arguments to be made on both sides. I truly don't know on which side of the coin I fall just yet, but we've seen what DeMond can provide when he's in the game. And I liken it to something that Michigan did on a couple of plays in the national championship game with now starting quarterback Alex Orji, where they brought him in to run the read option and pulled up JJ McCarthy. I don't know how often we're going to see it in this game again, in terms of on the Washington side, but I think that the momentum is really there when DeMond does come in and run that play effectively.
I agree, but it's to your point about that, to Jedd's point, making sure that when we bring DeMond in, it's not the immediate first, second, third thought is, DeMond's going to run. Because the second you do that, like Michigan's going to see that in practice and think, DeMond's coming in, we got to prepare for the run. That first play now needs to be a pass, whether it's a play action rollout, boot, screen, whatever you want to call it. Something to break the trend and still get positive yardage. And that's where play calling comes into play. Jedd can bring in DeMond every single game for the rest of the season, but if the first play is a run or the first two plays are a run, eventually those positive yardage are going to start to turn into negatives. And that's when you talk about, now DeMond comes in, now the rhythm of the game is broken and that sort of thing. It's almost like having, how do I put this? It's like having like a Jeep Cherokee, like a really good, durable Jeep Cherokee and a Maserati. You can only break up you can Jeep's got a bad rap, but that Jeep is dependable and never lets you down, no flat tire. The Maserati, it's hard to not bring it out of the garage, but you don't want to bring it out just yet. And at some point, you're shaking your head. That's a pretty good comparison.
No. That's a great comp. I just didn't know where that was going, and I respect it. Like, hats off to you for making the comparison. I was just not prepared for that at all. Like, hats off to you, truly. Now, Lars, that being said, let's go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say that's what Jedd needs to have against Wing Barndale. He needs to make him unprepared, catch him off guard.
Now let's switch sides here. Let's get to Steve Belichick and the Husky defense. right after a message from our good friends over at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. I got some fun ones for you. I'm going to stick with this Josh Allen. I'm just going to ride this one out for the rest of the season, where I really love these Josh Allen MVP odds on FanDuel. I have not been impressed with some of the other top big name quarterbacks this season. Feels like Lamar Jackson might be his top competition right now. And yeah, the Ravens beat the Bills when they went head to head, but I really do love the Josh Allen odds. The way he's just worked with that wide receiver core is really impressive. Love Jaden Daniels for Rookie of the Year. Love those odds. Go check those out over on FanDuel. And this weekend, Seahawks, Giants. Kenneth Walker anytime touchdown just feels like something you can bet on every single week. And you should go check out all those odds and more over on FanDuel. Lars, bold take here. Think Washington needs to stop the run on Saturday.
Yeah, that's another safe assessment. And I guess my key is my first key is make sure Alex Orji doesn't turn into Johnny Mateer. That's really my fear. No pun intended.
Just don't call cover zero, basically.
I'm gonna make it this easy and say, do not let Alex Orji become John Mateer. That's the simplest way I can put it. Because
I want to stop you there for 1 second, because I don't think that happens for one reason alone. John Mateer threw 24, 26 passes in the Apple Cup. Do you really think they're going to let Alex Orji drop back and throw 26 times?
They won't even let him drop back 16 times.
Yeah. That's the one gripe I have there. But now, please continue.
But the principle is, when you get down in distance, make sure you get off the field, whether that's stopping Alex Orji, Donovan Edwards, whoever you want to call it, making sure that when you get into the opportune situations, you don't shoot yourself in the foot with play calling, as Roman mentioned. And, I think Steve has learned that lesson a couple of times, because there was even, one or two against Rutgers where, I'm not sure it was cover zero. It was like, ooh, what are we doing here on the back end? Like, what's happening here? And to me, this is also a perfect game for one Cameron Broussard to explain why he went to Washington instead of Michigan.
Right. I'm with you there. I like that a lot, where, I went and checked the numbers real fast. Alex Orji did drop back 18 times against, or he had 18 throws against Minnesota last week. So maybe over 16, but your reasoning stands. And that's one thing that I really like, that where I think we're going to see a very similar game plan to what Washington did against Rutgers. It's going to be stack the box. We dare you to throw the ball. This Washington secondary is really, really talented. Number 6 in the nation in passing yards allowed. Number 2 in completion percentage. They're tops in just basically every passing stat. They've been excellent in the secondary, where there are some holes on the ground, but it's not like this is, a 2021 run defense where it was, oh yeah, we're going to play 3 guys close to the line of scrimmage and, whatever happens from there happens. Where this is a solid run defense. It just hasn't been elite. And one thing that'll help with that is just crowding the box and forcing this Michigan rushing attack to be contained, to not let them bounce runs outside, to wrap up and tackle. And there are a lot of things that you can look at, do that with. One thing that, we obviously hope to see in this game is if Zach Durfee plays, where Jedd Fisch said he's going to be a game time decision with the toe injury that he said he was dealing with. So that's one thing to keep in mind there. But even if Zach doesn't play, I really like the potential of Deshaun Lynch, of Tunuufi, and what those guys are going to be able to do on the edge. So I've been impressed with especially Voi's just evolution and his development as a run defender. That's been something that I've been really, really impressed with this season. And another guy who I wrote about a little bit over on Huskies Wire that, has dropped down and played the edge a decent amount this season is linebacker Alphonzo Tuputala, where I think he's going to be one of the biggest keys in this game. And he's somebody who he's second on the team right now in tackles. He's got 25. And Lars, I feel like it's fair to say so far he's having the best season of his career. He's been really, really impressive all season long. And that's a guy, when I look at this Michigan rushing attack, I think that Tuputala is a guy who can really be relied on this weekend.
Yeah, well, crazy enough, it sounds like he's been the green dot. Like, I know we thought it was Carson, but from all indications are, it's Zoe. At least when Zoe's been out there, it's been more so Zoe than Carson. That's not a shot at Carson. But it really speaks to, it's what I said on the Michigan show a couple of days ago. I don't think anybody's been more positively impacted than the Steve Belichick hire than Alphonzo Tuputala. I'm not sure you could find, and I think you've said that multiple times, and it's not necessarily a broken record at this point, but the amount of things that Zoe can do. It's no longer just, oh, hey, set up the defense, kind of play that middle linebacker play. It's coming off the edge, dropping back in coverage. There's a number of things, and he's going sideline to sideline. So talking about two different types of running backs with Donovan Edwards and Caleb Mullings, that's where that sideline to sideline is going to be going to make an impact. Where if you can bounce it outside, if Jordan Shaw is not able to make that tackle, you need to have one of the linebackers there. And if Carson's going to be the one coming up the middle, Zoe can go outside. It's a perfect recipe. Although, man, I'm not sure if he meant to do it intentionally, but that 21 run defense, which was the reverse cover 0, which was nobody up front and 10 guys in the back end, it was a beautiful sight. But Michigan ran for 384 and 4 touchdowns that day in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, we don't.
Washington.
Yeah,
So as I told the Michigan guys, for them dodging the game in 21 or 20, when Michigan was supposed to come out here in 2020. They didn't dodge it literally because the world kind of dodged it for us.
Very different discussion, yeah.
But I told them, I was like, this is going to be the running back game that it should have been in 2020, 21, where you had, and now again, I couldn't tell you at the top of the head who the running back would have been at that point. I know it would have been Cam would have been one of them. I couldn't remember who the other one would have been. But adding Jonah to that mix, oh my God. So yeah, this is really going to be a running back battle, just like it was last week. You look at the receivers, nobody scares you. Michigan's best receiver currently plays at Evanston, Illinois. They already saw. So you already know the task at hand. And I think the guy that the X factor on defense, aside from Alphonzo, because I think he's kind of the headliner, the leader of if you will,
sure.
Elenius Davis. Elenius is the guy that went. Now I know somebody asked Jedd on Tuesday or no, Bill on Tuesday. Steve on Tuesday, not Bill.
They sound the same.
They really do. Why he hadn't played the past couple of weeks, and it's he's not hurt. That's the key. So he's not hurt. It's cool. I'll go with that because what he has shown in the first 3 games was really, really good run defense.
I agree, and it doesn't seem like, when people say, oh, he's not hurt, it sounds like it's a disciplinary thing. We're not speculating. We don't think it's anything to do with that at all. One thing that, might have prevented him from getting on the field is Javon Parker's play and how good Javon was, especially in that Rutgers game. So I like that you want to talk about Elenius there because, we talked about Elenius and Bryce Butler a couple of days ago and how impactful both those guys could be against the run. I think we're going to see a lot of 5-man fronts. I really do. I think that just the way this game is going to be, especially with what Michigan's offensive game plan has been all season long, it's a lot of, we're going to run the ball down your throat. We dare you to stop it. That's what it's been. It's very simple, but it's worked very well for them. So you can't knock it. You can't do anything with that. You just need to find a way to stop it. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see both those guys in the field at the same time. I wouldn't be surprised if Logan Sagapolu plays the most snaps we've seen from him all season. I think Deshaun Lynch might do the same thing, where that's a big guy who can set the edge really well. The more I look at this, the more I say, I think Washington has the ability to stop Michigan from the bodies that they have, from the way the scheme has played, from the way they've looked for the most part. Outside of a couple plays here and there, from the way they've looked like a really, really solid team. The numbers reflect that on defense, especially. But the question is, can you show up? Because this is a top 10 Michigan team. They are ranked in the top 10 for a reason. So you need to find a way to put it all together in this game.
Yeah, you have all the players are there. You mentioned that's why when we talked about over the summer, getting a Deshaun Lynch, getting plus Isaiah Ward. So you're not just getting your Arizona guys and a couple of JUCOs and calling it a wrap. There's plenty of guys on this defensive line who are going to make an impact in this game. And this could also be, coming up party for Jaden Wayne, where he's gotten more snaps throughout the season. There's plenty of guys where I think it's going to come down to situational appearances for some of these guys, where on a 3rd and 8, can Voy get home? Can Deshaun get home? Can Kamori get home? Can somebody get home? That's that's the one thing I need to say.
But one thing on that, no, I'm sorry. Right. But one thing I try to say on top of that is, how many times are we really going to see 3rd and 8? I don't think that that's something we're going to see very often. And I don't want to say that to slight the Husky defense. I just think from the way this offense and this offensive line is constructed, that we're going to see more 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4 than anything. And in those scenarios, that's where I really want to see this defense perform. That's going to be the most important thing, where if you are able to get, in these 3rd and shorts, can you make the stop? That's more important to me, where it's something you talked about very, very well on some shows over the last couple of days. It's Michigan is going to want to grind this clock down. That's what they do. They do really well. Are you going to be able to make those stops in those situations?
And I think, it's more, I think third kind of 3rd and 5 and in is probably what we're talking about here. Just getting off the field on those stops where you're going to give up probably 1 or 2 per drive. They're going to get some conversions. You're not going to hold them to 2 of 14 on 3rd down. Like, I mean, if you can, great. But the expectation should be, look, get to like the 45, 50. Just don't let those 2 or 3 become 4 or 5 or 6, because that's how you lose this game.
Sure. Lars, are you ready? Because I'm ready for some bold predictions, which we'll get to right after a message from our good friends over at Game Time, because Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets, which is great news for anybody out there who has not yet picked up tickets to this weekend's game at, the Washington, Michigan game, where Jedd Fisch said it's sold out. It is sold out, but you're still going to find some fantastic tickets, some fantastic deals on Game Time, because the Game Time Picks curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and so much more. With their all-in pricing, you can toggle this feature and it shows the total upfront with no surprise fees to check out. And with the seat views, you can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets at the Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKDOWNCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Lars, I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to go first this week. I don't remember. Yeah. Oh, I am. All right. Here we go. We're making some big changes on this show this year, man. We're remembering who's doing the bold predictions first. I love this. All right. I'll start us off here. I gave one the other day on the show. It's really frustrating how many people have jinxed this. I know I was among them earlier in the week, where I think we do see Will Rogers' first interception this week. I just think that he tries to test Will Johnson at some point. I don't want to put it out there. Maybe, this is all just a big ploy to do a reverse jinx in my head here, but I'm not going to go with my first one there. This one is a Locked On Huskies classic from last season. Just an anytime touchdown one here. Give me a Denzel Boston anytime touchdown against Will Johnson. That's where I want to make it bold. Against Will Johnson, I think Denzel Boston gets in the end zone.
So as much as I love Denzel, love the bold prediction, love all of it. I can't fault you. It'll probably come true. But this show is made for agendas and bold predictions for a reason. Give me the Michigan man against Michigan, 110 yards and 1 touchdown for Giles Jackson. Giles ends up, if Washington wins this game, which we'll see if they actually do, he could be the game-winning touchdown, as it were.
I like where you're going with that. I think that's a very good one there. I'll stick on the offensive side here. I thought long and hard about this one, where I referenced Michigan's exceptional run defense early. I'm not giving a yardage prediction for Jonah Coleman here, but and this is where it gets really bold, because you already gave me a spoiler of your score prediction the other day, and I'm not going to give that away right now, but I think Jonah Coleman scores 2 touchdowns today, and I think they both come from inside the 5-yard line. I think Jonah is not necessarily going to have his best day in terms of total yardage against this really strong Michigan front, but I think he finds a way to get in the end zone. I think Jedd really tries to just ride his workhorse back close to the goal line, and I think Jonah's going to come through.
I like that. And, I mean, again, there's the funniest part about our bowl predictions and all the predictions we end up making, then you get to the score prediction. It's like, well, that math doesn't check out. It's like, yeah, but if 3 or
Right.
4 hit, it doesn't matter. Who cares? Like, we're just trying to have some parlays here and have some fun.
They're bold predictions for a reason.
So I would
for all the Michigan fans are probably in the comments saying that's not happening.
Right, exactly. Much like this one that's about to come, which will be my last offensive one. As I said 2 weeks ago, and you said last week, and I know we're both in the same boat on this one.
Yeah.
Damon Williams gets his first career rushing touchdown. It will be rushing. It will not be passing. I am not ready to give him a passing touchdown just yet, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to say Damon Williams anytime rushing touchdown. Not anytime touchdown, anytime rushing touchdown.
I like this a lot. So I'm going to switch to the defensive side here. Another one. I really racked my brain this week. I tried to, use some of our staples here, like I'm about to do with leading tackler here, where this one is a two-parter. So we talked about him a lot earlier. Give me Alphonzo Tuputala as Washington's leading tackler this week. I think he gets 8+. And here's where I think it gets super bold. I think we see 3 guys with 6+ tackles, where we haven't seen that a lot this season. But I think with the way Michigan's offense likes to run, I think we're going to see 3 guys over 6, where I feel like the most we've seen is 2. And, might have been Alphonzo and Carson one week. I know we saw Sebastian Valdez get there a couple weeks ago against Northwestern, which was really impressive. I love to see that as a big Valdez agenda guy. But I think we see 3 6+ tackles. And just to make it extra bold, I think the top 2 tacklers, I want to say 8+ just to have that bar, but I think the top 2 get over 10.
I like that. Yeah, there's one declaring thing about this defense is there will never be one player with like 15 tackles. It will always be the 3 or 4 with 5 than there, which is honestly the sign of a good defense. I'd rather have that. And as much as we love Ben Burkervin, that was kind of bad for a reason when he was able to do that. So I'm going to go back to my well on defense, and I'm going to give you 2. I'm going to say Washington I'm going to set the over under at 2.5, and I'm going to take the over at 2.5, so 3 tackles for loss in the game.
I like
give
this.
You give you a good push. And as I teased earlier, and I predicted last week, and he was about 3 yards within his first turnover, Broussard gets his first turnover at Washington.
I like this. I'm big Cam Broussard agenda as well. Yeah. I have a couple different ones here that I want to go with. I'm going to play off your TFL one there. Give me 2+ TFLs for Voy Tunuufi, where you talked earlier about Alphonzo Tuputala being the person who's benefited the most from this Steve Belichick defense, and I agree with you. I completely agree with you. I think if we had to pick somebody who was second, I think it's Voy Tunuufi, and it's not close. The way he's improved, not just as a pass rusher, where I don't want to necessarily say improve, where he looked this good in 2021 as a true freshman before he was moved to the outside a little bit more. But I don't want to just say improved in that sense, but improved as a run defender. And I think he's more disruptive as a pass rusher this year, where I think he's going to put some pressure on Alex Orji when he does drop back to throw. And I've just been so impressed with Voy's ability against the run this season that I think 2 of those 3 go to Voy Tunuufi.
I love it. I remember those conversations we were having over the summer when we were doing the D line. Like, what about Voy? We're all forgetting Voy. It's like, Voy. It's like just wait, just wait. Like we saw enough, as you mentioned in 21 and 2. It's like, no, we saw him be able to do it, and there's no way with this coaching staff he couldn't unlock it. He just kind of got buried under the Jimmy Lake era, which everybody else did. So I'll do one more, and then we'll get to the score prediction. Probably I'll get one more. You do one more, then we do prediction. So for me, I'm going to do a combined prediction.
Okay.
Combined between Washington and Michigan, 3 field goal attempts in the game.
All right. That's a unique one. I like that one.
Because, that could be 2 for Washington, 1 for Michigan. I doubt it's going to be 3 for Washington because at some point somebody's going to have to go and you're going to have to start getting 4th down conversion. So I'll be curious to see how much field goal ends up actually happening this weekend, because I don't think it's going to be a ton. I think there's going to be a lot of, hey, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, might as well go for it from the 35. If we don't get it, we stop and get the ball back, sort of thing on both sides of the ball.
Sure. All right. Last one for me here. I've been thinking about it where I think that Washington gets 1 sack this weekend. I'm going to set the number there. And I've just been thinking about who would I, boldly say gets that sack. I really have not been able to decide. Give me Sebastian Valdez. I think we see him I don't want to say be a game wrecker in this game, where I don't necessarily think that they trust him as much as they do some of the other defensive tackles against the run, where he's been solid, but I don't think he's been their most elite run defender. I think that was Javon Parker. So give me Sebastian Valdez racking up the one and only sack on Alex Orji in this game. And I think it comes at a really crucial time.
As you were saying that, we missed an opportunity to say Bryce Butler gets his first fumble.
I do like that, yeah.
Like you know what? I'll throw that. That's my last one. I'll throw that one. And Bryce Butler gets his first career UW sack and gets a forced fumble on the play. Kind of like think ZTF against USC in 2023, 22,
yeah,
23, yeah. Dude, it's all running together. That Kalen era ran together pretty quick. So that leads us to the always
your score prediction.
Trustworthy score prediction, and it's a very first. Actually, I think this is a Locked On Huskies first.
It is.
It is a Locked On Huskies first, which now we get to, now everybody in the comments, you get to sound off and say, hey, you jinxed us, you did whatever. Great, cool. If I jinxed you, great. Michigan 20, Washington 14. I had been teetering on 2017, but I think that ends up not being a field goal attempt. You go for a shot on the last play, you don't get it. 2014 is your final score.
That's the thing about after watching the way this game was coached, or not this game, but this team was coached last week. I respect the pick. It's tough to have to make it, but this is one that you and I both had them losing in the preseason. We'd love to be wrong. We hope to be wrong, but that's just where it is at this point in time. Lars, as always, thank you so much for being here. Thank you all everybody for tuning in, and thank you for making Locked On Huskies your first listen today. Now for your second listen, check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast. Craig Sheeman puts the Big Ten first when everyone else overlooks it. Find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube, wherever else you listen to your podcast. And if you like what we have to offer, make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcast, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. We're there. We're everywhere. We're updating this channel with new content every single day. So make sure you click that like button, click that little bell so you never miss when we post a new video. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, drop them right down below in the comment section. And if you're audio only, please leave us a 5-star review. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you after the game.